What's a fact about the ocean you know? Sea turtles can live to be 150 years old. All drains lead to the ocean. There are species of sharks that refuse to eat fish. Tuna will often escape commercial fishing nets by swimming in the same direction until the net snaps open for escape. Regal tang, species of saltwater fish, suffer from extreme short-term memory loss. Clownfish are extremely protective of their young. And if one of the young clownfish is kidnapped by divers and sent to live in a dentist's office at P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney, the parent clownfish will travel across the entire ocean in search of rescue. There was a great white swimming off the coast of Australia a few years ago that marine biologists were tracking until it disappeared randomly. A few weeks later the tracking device washed up on shore and was returned to the lab. When they checked out the recorded data, they somehow found out that the great white had been dragged a few thousand feet down into the ocean and eaten. I can't remember where exactly I read this, but if you type the main parts into Google it'll pop up. But just remember, there's things out there big enough to drag down a massive shark like it's nothing. Edit. Some are saying it was an orca. Others are saying it was a great white and someone else said it's a sperm whale. I think it's safe to say what ate the great white is unknown. Also, people asking for sources. Read the last part of what I wrote again. The deep sea is the largest museum on Earth. There are more artifacts and remnants of history in the ocean than in all of the world's museums combined. We have only explored less than 5% of the Earth's oceans. In fact, we have better maps of Mars than we do of the ocean floor, even the submerged half of the United States. 100% of shark attacks happen in or around water. I don't go into a shark's house. He doesn't come into mine. Just a little understanding we have. Mariana Trench is deeper than the height of Mount Everest. And/or height of commercial airlines cruising altitude. I would like to add that while there are hundreds of thousands of known marine life forms, there are many that are yet to be discovered. Some scientists suggest that there could actually be millions of marine life forms out there. So you can imagine the possibilities. Back when Animal Planet was a channel that was worth watching, I learned that the sailfish is the fastest fish in the sea. It can reach speeds of 68 miles per hour. 110 kilometers per hour for you metric users. I always thought that was really cool. Edit. I guess my wording wasn't perfect. Lobsters are effectively immortal. Not the one I'm eating. Eating a lobster while on your computer? Filthy and undignified. We know less about the ocean floor than we do about the surface of the moon. I read in an eyewitness book that if you took a piece of paper and put a penny on it, the penny represents what we know about the ocean as a whole, and the paper all the information to learn about the ocean. The tallest mountain, Mauna Kea, is actually located mostly underwater. People don't understand that this is the biggest or tallest mountain, not the highest. There are more molecules in a glass of water than there are glasses of water in all the oceans. There are more molecules in a glass of water than there are stars on Earth. The Pacific Ocean is ever so slightly shrinking each year, while the Atlantic Ocean is ever so slightly growing. This is because the North American plate is ever sliding westward. Given enough time, the west coast of the United States could meet up with Asia. Thalassophobia is the fear of oceans. And thalassocracy is a political system primarily oriented to the life near large bodies of water. Its economy is oriented to seas and oceans. Sort of like ancient Greece or some archipelago countries. Maybe even old merchant republics. I know this because I play Europa Universalis. Spontaneous thermal vents support their own macro-worlds of crustaceans and worms. When the vents become inactive, everything dies, leaving a graveyard of submarine worm shells. Yes. Finally an AskReddit I can answer. Pineapple fish look super funky and have glowing lips they use to attract prey. Their lips can be either red or green and have a neon coloring. It is deep. It is also wet. Salty too. The oceans occupy nearly 71% of our planet's surface. More than 97% of all our planet's water is contained in the ocean. The top 10 feet of the ocean hold as much heat as our entire atmosphere. The average depth of the ocean is more than 2.5 miles. The oceans provide 99% of the Earth's living space, the largest space in our universe known to be inhabited by living organisms. More than 90% of this habitat exists in the deep sea known as the abyss. Less than 10% of this living space has been explored by humans. Mount Everest, the highest point on the Earth's surface 5.49 miles, is more than 1 mile shorter than the Challenger Deep, the deepest point in the ocean at 6.86 miles. The longest continuous mountain chain known to exist in the universe resides in the ocean at more than 40,000 miles long. The Monterey Bay Submarine Canyon is deeper and larger in volume than the Grand Canyon. The Antarctic ice sheet that forms and melts over the ocean each year is nearly twice the size of the United States. The average temperature of the oceans is 2°E. About 39°. Water pressure at the deepest point in the ocean is more than 8 tons per square inch. The equivalent of one person trying to hold 50 jumbo jets. The Gulf Stream off the Atlantic seaboard of the United States flows at a rate nearly 300 times faster than the typical flow of the Amazon River. The world's largest river. The world's oceans contain nearly 20 million tons of gold. The color blue is least absorbed by seawater. The same shade of blue is most absorbed by microscopic plants, called phytoplankton, drifting in seawater. Full stop. Most of the oxygen we breathe comes from oceans. Ike. We could lose all of our trees and other large plants, and we'd still have enough oxygen to survive thanks to all the plants and phytoplankton in the ocean. It's possible that since we have explored such a low percent of the ocean, that there are other intelligent creatures down there, unable to explore the surface. I mean, the ocean is covering 70% of Earth. If we really explored only 5% of it, well, that's more than half of our planet we know nothing about. Clownfish aren't really that funny. There is so much undiscovered in the ocean that people suspect there are maybe even millions of new marine life forms out there. We know there's gigantic squid. We've found their washed up bodies. We know there's gigantic squid in the depths of the ocean that are much bigger than any we've ever seen. We know this because we've found squid beaks much bigger than those of washed up squid in the stomachs of sperm whales. We know that it's not easy for sperm whales to hunt these giant squids because most of them are covered in massive scars caused by the beaks and clawed suction cups of giant squids they fight in the depths. I wonder how big the squids are that are found by those sperm whales who never make it back to the surface at all. There's a really neat species of squid called Vampiroteuthis infernalis. Literally vampire squid from hell. It's bright red. The reason it's bright red is because in the deep sea, there is little light, and the red wavelengths of light are the first to dissipate. This squid is essentially invisible in its natural habitat. It's also what's called a serrate squid, for catching prey, instead of the traditional suckered arms. It has a large webbing between its tentacles, essentially turning them into a giant funnel leading to the mouth. The inside of the funnel is black, with patches of white photophores. They work like airport landing guide lights, food just swims right in. The vampire squid also is in its own taxonomic group. Not quite an octopus and not quite a squid. All the others in this group with it are extinct. The grouping is based on their arm number and function. Octopuses have 8 arms. Right, squid have 10. Vampiroteuthis has 8. And then 2 special, modified sensor tentacles that it carries curled up in pouches. A gulf is a portion of the ocean that penetrates land. So the Gulf of Mexico is part of the Atlantic Ocean. So when you visit FL and ask to go to the ocean and a native tells you it's the Gulf, tell them to duck off because gulfs are part of the ocean. MH370 isn't in it. Sharks could always be crying and we'd never know. The ocean is actually becoming more acidic as a result of increased CO2 in the atmosphere. This acidification is not only harmful to invertebrates in the ocean since it prevents the formation of their shells, but it also has the potential to undermine most fisheries. A shipment of 250 million dildos lies at the bottom of the ocean. I know this fact, but I don't know if it's true. The blue whale is the largest existing animal, 30 meters in length and 180 tons or more in weight, and the whale shark is the largest fish species. Largest confirmed individual had a length of 12.65 meters and a weight of approximately 21.5 tons. World Oceans Day has been unofficially celebrated every 8th of June since its original proposal in 1992 by Canada at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It was officially recognized by the United Nations in 2008. I know that the whale ejaculates as much as 30 million gallons of semen and only about 2 million enters the female whale. We have only mapped about 16% of the ocean floor in detail. People can even buy their own remote control mini submersibles and help contribute to the global effort to map the ocean floor. The clearer the ocean, the colder the temperature. Then why can't I see through my ex's heart? Not an ocean, but Baltic Sea is most radioactive sea in the world because little nuclear accident in good old Soviet times. It's wet. There are no oceans in Kansas. There are no oceans in Nebraska. There are no oceans in Nevada. There are no oceans in Minnesota. There are no oceans in Iowa. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do our own oceans. Jellyfish aren't fish at all. They're plankton. Well, as a lifeguard, ocean, I know that tourists really don't know the difference between dolphins, sharks, and seaweed. Thank you for subscribing to Ocean Facts. The male seahorse is the one who gets pregnant by carrying the fertilized eggs in a pouch. The Mariana Trench is the deepest part of all the oceans. Life on Earth is believed to have originated in the seas. Creatures such as whales and dolphins, despite their physical similarities with fish, evolved from land-living animals who went back into the oceans.